Yo, what is going on, good people out there in the stratosphere of this place we call Earth? I'm James,
And I'm Altamise.
and that's probably the last thing you're going to hear from me on tonight's show because Alti has, she wanted to do the topic this week, so we about to let her rock out. Clear out. Go.
Oh my gosh. So, it was probably like a month ago, we were talking about respect and honor. And I've still been thinking about that conversation. And recently I went to Dubai, and one of the things that was really noticeable with the people and the culture was respect and honor. So, like, for example, they didn't their airport was actually really quiet, and that was like a law. Like, you can be extremely loud. And then there was also specific rules in terms of how they kept their streets, down to, I guess, with men and women. So the women, my friend and I, we called them kept women, but they were women. Like, many had children, wives, and the men were men. And I don't know how to explain that, but it was very apparent. So it made me think about honor, respect. And ironically, during the week, one of my devotions brought up Proverbs 31, and specifically what it means to be a crown to your husband. So I was like, what exactly does that mean, to be a crown to your husband? And it is not an accessory or an ornament, but it says a crown is the visible sign of a king's dignity. When scripture calls a wife a crown, it means she brings honor to her husband's life, not by perfection, but by character, wisdom, integrity, and presence. You elevate him, not by shrinking yourself, but by flourishing in partnership. And I didn't know that. I did not know that. So that was something that I thought was worth sharing. It also talked about evidence of God's favor. It says, in ancient Israel, a crown represented God's blessing. A strong, wise, emotionally grounded wife reflects God's goodness toward the man she is connected to. This does not mean responsibility for his spiritual life, but it means your life, love, and character are seen as gifts in his. And then it also says strength and covering. Crowns are symbols of authority and strength, not fragility. To be the crown means you bring stability, you contribute wisdom and decision-making, your presence strengthens his leadership, and your emotional and spiritual maturity fortifies the home. You aren't beneath him, you are a part of the structure that allows him to stand firm. Yeah. Like, that was deep for me. That was deep. I would also say that was probably that was also convicting in parts, because it made me ask, how am I being a crown to you, when it comes to how we partner in our home, when it comes to our decision making, as well as just how I operate with you. So I wanted to open up that conversation because I don't know if we often think of the Proverbs 31 woman in tradition of like what she was and how she, wasn't fearful of the future, and she was a woman of the marketplace, all these great things. But there's so much more to being a wife. And yeah, I wanted to open that up.
Wait, to me or to the people?
To the people,
You
not to
mean
you.
to women?
Because because
This is to women, right?
Yeah, because you're not a wife. You're the husband.
So when I download this, I should just send it all to you and not post it on my.
No,
I'm asking. I'm just
no. I wanted to, I guess, hear your feedback in terms of.
You gotta ask me a direct question because this all don't. I could care less about this freaking conversation. So, not from the standpoint of I don't care, but from the standpoint of, life. Like I'm the person that I guess I am the one that this would be directed to. Mm-hmm. So I kind of have my opinion and reflection of it. But yeah, you rock out. Go ahead. Clear out. Where?
Yes, but it was to the ladies.
Okay.
In terms of, what does it mean to be the crown to your husband? What does that mean to you? And how does that show up in your life? Yeah. And I was going to ask you.
Okay.
For us, how do you think that shows up? And look, you know where it's going. It is, but I don't know.
What do you mean? How does that show up?
Because it's so deep to me. I didn't realize how deep that was. Like, I didn't realize.
Why is it so deep though? So I'll answer your question if you answer my question. Okay. Why does this feel so deep if you have a culture of people who can execute and do this that you witness? Why is that so deep when you have the opportunity where you are to execute that? Why does it feel like it's so deep? Let me explain my question. It feels like you're placing a divide between what's happening over there and what's happening here. And my question would be, why does that seem so foreign? And I will answer your question if you can answer mine.
I think that it's not taught. I don't think it's taught. I think that there was a
excuse me.
There was a reel I recently saw where Jackie Perry was talking about how women are supposed to be taught how to be wives, and that doesn't exist for us, for many of us, right? We're supposed to teach our daughters in the same way men teach the sons, but that's not taught, right? So we become wives, and we have no formal instruction outside of scripture. But I'm talking about mentors. I'm talking about somebody that been there, done that, got, passed the test. So they're not in it with us, okay? They passed it. They've been married 20, 30 years, and they're teaching us how to be wives. I don't think we have that. And that was actually something that was, I did notice there. So why are you laughing?
I got so much in my head that probably get me in trouble, but I want to answer your question. Go ahead. You finish your thought.
Okay, but that's why.
I'm working on you being able to finish your thought. Finish.
Yes, but that's why.
So I need to answer your question, and I'm going to offer a retort to what you just said. So you talk about what does it mean to be a crown to your husband? I think it is the representation of Proverbs 31:10. My belief is that we look at it from a totally different perspective. You're looking at it as purely, well, no, I'm not saying you are. The way you presented it in this video was purely from a business perspective, and how it's looked at from the man who's in the court with his men is Words like honor, words like protection of his image and his character of who he is. Words like being committed. I'm going to use my core values. Words like communicating, being an excellent communicator. There's words like she's working hard, right? Not only is she taking care of outside the home, but it also says in 3110 how she handles business inside the home. That's also in there, right? Yeah. She's organized. It talked about how she's handling her affairs in the marketplace, as well as it talks about what she is handling at home. Okay, so that's, integrity. That verse is all about her integrity, right? Her commitment to both the family, the business, and her, like all those duties of being a wife. The excitement, it sounds like she's doing what she's doing in an excellent way, willfully. Right. It doesn't feel like she's being forced. And then the last thing is sacrifice. There's elements of sacrifice in that verse. So when you ask like what a crown is, I would answer it as all those things combined in. It's not just a business place. She is a firm representative of her home, both inside and out. And all that King Lemuel, because somebody is writing about his observation of this woman. That's what the 3110 is. It's a proverb of somebody's observation.
Did I mention business?
You did. That's what you said earlier. And we can rewind this. We can go back. If I did, then I'm addressing the wrong thing. I'll take that. But we're not going to stop the video and go. No, I can pause it and we can go back. But, well, I can't because I had to stop the video. If you did, so if we're putting it, most of the time that verse is looked at in the context of business. But when you look at the scope of the full passage, because it's more than just one verse. She is talking about the totality. Now, what is not talked about is what happens when they have disagreements. What happens, what happens when she goes against her king. That is an outward expression. What is not being talked about is what's happening in her home. So I will say this. So that's my thing of the crown part is crowns are outward. They're not inward. A crown is a representation that designates that person as a king, right? It says nothing about what's happening with the doors are closed. That verse is all about somebody's observation of someone's wife. So when you talk about what's a crown, ultimately is when somebody observes you, somebody's observing you. We're in a Truman show. Somebody has a camera on you. Your object should be, am I a crown for my husband? Right? If you take on that mentality, now what happens in the home, we don't know. Right? There's a lot of things that happen. So, but now I will address, so that would be my answer, right? That would be my answer. When you ask me, it is, if somebody had a camera on you 24/7, are you a crown for me? Are you somebody that I can say without a shadow of a doubt of not knowing what's going on, that somebody's going to say, that's James Cornelius Williams's wife. And this is what she's doing. And somebody could describe you and pin you in that way. Right. That's my answer. I don't know about anybody else. So now I will disagree with your statement about not being taught. Okay. No, pause. I'm not disagreeing with that statement. I do agree with you on that statement that it is not being taught. However, with the age of data and information, I would push back on the fact of you guys don't know. My response to you is I do not think that women want to know. They do not ask the right questions of the right people. There is not a high level of seeking that because you have couples around you, not saying you, but you may. I'm not saying I don't know who you got around you as couples, but there are people around that you can sit down and ask. One thing that I had growing up, so I'll give you a little bit of background on me. I can remember my stepdad, when we lived in Kansas, taking me to this gentleman's house named Mr. McDonald. Mr. McDonald was a historian. Mr. McDonald knew everything about us from Timbuktu back to Egypt. And I sat at his feet at 9, 10, 11 years old. And my stepdad took me over there and we would sit and listen to him for hours. So when I went back to school the next day, there were things that I knew about our people being kings and queens that was contradictory to what was in the school books and what was being taught of me. So I had an understanding that there was a world that was way bigger than what My social studies book was telling me about George. I knew George Washington had slaves. I got in trouble in school because I challenged my teacher's view of how the propaganda of who George Washington was. I said, how can he be such a great man and have slaves? I asked my teacher that. This is me in elementary like that. You know what I'm saying? I knew who Dr. King was. I knew who Malcolm X was. I tell people this, and this is a true story. I was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X at 4 years old. So I had a great understanding of our culture and our people, of who we were before we got over here. You know what I'm saying? My stepdad sat me at this man's feet, and I learned so much about our people, who I was, right? I had a sense of identity culturally, right? I will stand on this hill and I'll fight, not fight, but verbally I will go back and forth with anybody. I would disagree with the fact of not knowing, because we have information. I think we are in a society and culture where outside of AI, we're seeking things. We don't go and seek those people. Is what our ancestors did. If you didn't have the information, you went out and got it. So to say I don't know when there are couples, so like that's why I ask the couples. Anytime I see an old couple, I ask them, "What did you do? How you did it?" And I can, if I really was on my research, Dean, every couple I ask, when I see an older couple, I'll ask them questions. They probably have given me all the nuggets, quote unquote, the secrets to having a long lasting marriage. But that's me seeking whenever I see an older couple. I don't think women do that enough. I don't think they've been so used to having men ask. I don't think it's indoctrinated in our culture for you to go sit at someone's feet and say, talk to me, tell me about what it is to be a woman. Tell me of people outside of your comfort zone. That would be my retort to that. So I might get in trouble for that, but I'm not saying you, and I'm gonna shut up.
So
I didn't want this video to be 20 minutes, but
it's okay. And I think that in some cases there may be some accuracy to that, depending upon the woman. But I don't think it's questions to a man.
I'm not saying a man. I'm talking.
I think it's.
I don't think you guys ask questions. Period. Somebody who dated a lot, I didn't get inquiry questions of deep, thought-provoking stuff. Me and Noble talked about this a lot. When I was dating, I didn't get a woman to sit down and almost interrogate me about who I am and what I'm about. But I did that a lot in dating. So I'm speaking to women. I don't think women are really, really curious about the deep, thought-provoking things that could invoke change across the board. I don't think their curiosity level is at a place to where that could happen, to where you could go sit at someone's feet and them tell you need to be more demure, or you need to be a little less combative in those situations, because that's what you would get. You don't think you would get that?
I think that there is somewhere along the lines, and it's not for everybody.
Sure.
Right? Somewhere along the lines, what goes on in my house stays in my house. I'm not sharing outside. We are taught to be silent about our struggle rather than seeking counsel of another woman. So
I can see you saying that. I can see you saying that.
But many women, I'll use myself.
Sure.
I'll use myself as an example.
Right.
In my previous marriage, I suffered in silence. I didn't say anything to anybody until it was at the end. No one knew until it was at the end. No one knew anything. Not outside of our counselors, not outside of therapy. But when it came to having a woman who's been through it, gone through it, no one knew. Not because I wasn't open to sharing that. I was told, you be very careful what you share about your spouse.
Okay.
You be very careful. You don't talk negatively about him.
I can
you
see
keep
that.
your mouth shut.
I can see that.
You deal with your problems behind closed doors.
Yes.
And you don't say anything to anybody.
I can see that.
So that's what we're taught. That's not what's there.
So let me ask this question then. I'm asking questions. You don't have to answer. These are rhetorical.
Yeah.
If that is the attitude, what happened? Okay, so here I'm gonna put history, and I'm not saying this is not Don't speak to men. I'm saying I'm gonna put history in this.
Okay.
When you had the feminist movement in the late 60s, early 70s, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys came out of the feminist movement, came in the bank accounts and all the stuff that you and I have talked about women not having, right?
Yes.
How is it that you guys can demand your voice in that situation, but you can't demand your voice to be able to get some education and some insight on how to be wives? And I'm only speaking for me. It seems like a contradictory because you guys fought for all this, but you can have somebody silence your voice. You can have somebody silence your voice for that, but you can have somebody silence your voice to voice that thought. And I think you have an answer for what I'm about to say. But you don't silence your voice when it comes to being submitted and being married and all the other things that cause issues between men and women.
Say that again.
All right. So I put this in the context of the feminist movement fighting for the woman's voice, right? Equal pay, the voice, burning bras, all that stuff that came out of that, the liberation of a woman, right? That started during the suffrage movement and it moved. We get to the 60s and 70s. You guys spoke up for yourselves. You protested. You got the opportunity to gain, and it's still not equal now, but you got the opportunity to gain some semblance of a voice in American society, right? So you just said I was taught to be silent about things that were dealing with me. How can you guys fight on this end with men for equality, but not fight for your right to be educated about how to be a wife is what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking.
I don't think they pair very well. And here's why.
Okay. Well, the pairing let me tell you what the pairing would be to help your response.
Okay.
The pairing would be the fight for your voice.
Okay.
You can fight for a bank account, but you can't. You said you'd be silenced.
Yeah, and I understand that.
To say about your problems is what I'm saying.
Now,
shouldn't the fight be equal?
I have been to Senegal and Dubai.
Both of those countries.
The women aren't silenced. They're not quiet.
But you just said you were.
They're actually quite bold.
Right, but you said you were.
But yes, I was. I'm talking about the silence is not what I'm referring to.
Right.
It's not gender opposite. What I'm talking about is in woman to woman, not woman to man. What I'm talking about is, and I'll answer your question. I think that women were objectified. And hold on, they were objectified, and they were treated as property.
I understand.
So that's where the voice was required, right? What I'm talking about is a mother sitting with her daughter and explaining, like, so in Bible study, we're going through the book of Esther, right?
Baby.
Esther was prepared to be a wife. You know what I'm saying?
To somebody,
it was actually 6 months of preparation. She had perfume. They literally taught her how to bathe. They did all this stuff, right?
Yes.
As women.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying all.
I
actually have a friend. Her mother.
We're general right now.
Her mother sat her down. Had a conversation with her.
Let's keep it personal.
But I'm talking about that. I'm talking about, because even as an adult,
yes,
right? Because I was 30.
Right.
So even as an adult, that wasn't when I was getting into when you're going into marriage. The conversation isn't someone pulling another wife of years, right?
Right.
Pulling you to the side, or maybe this should be a part of premarital counseling. Honestly,
that's what I'm glad you about to say that. So, why has it got to be a couple pairing? Why? Okay.
Or the wife, and the reason I say a couple pairing, because in the same way that the woman needs that outlet and that guidance and instruction, I don't think the men are obsolete from that.
I got it. Is what I'm telling you. When I got saved at 22 years old, I was being groomed for that. Now, I didn't take to the advice. That's a totally different conversation. I got the grooming. I sat at the feet of Pastor Bell. I sat at the feet of so many people who are currently married now. My friends who are still married after I've been divorced twice. I've been there. What I'm saying is, I haven't told you this, but I was having conversations with men on this third marriage that I'm on right now. What I'm saying is, you just said all that. We got married. We spoke to the marriage counselor. Why didn't you go? If you did, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I did. Hey, Dupree.
Oh, see. So again, what I'm saying is there are opportunities. It goes back to my original question. What is the difference, which will maybe lend to your conversation that you'll have with people? Why is it so surprising over there with their culture? Why can't that be established here? That's what the conversation to me sounds. That's what I was going to in the beginning. It sounds like from you watching, observing, you're like, oh, this is a good thing. And
I'm gonna say it was a beautiful thing. There wasn't this whole conversation of men versus women don't exist over there.
Because it's cultural over, but that's what I'm saying.
But we can talk about that for Dubai. We could also talk about that for Senegal.
But then
at the same time, though, right?
That's where I was going to get to with all this.
It is, but at the same time, I will never forget the tour guide in Senegal when we were talking, and he was saying that the women in that specific part of the country for Senegal, they were accountants, they were the attorneys, they were the doctors. The men did the laborious work. They did the work.
I get that.
Out there, and
you told me that.
Yeah. I'm sharing it with the people. Yes, I did share you that. So, and my friends and I.
All right, it's the people here. So
yeah.
I'm thinking we talking.
Yeah. And I asked him, I said, how do you all see women? Because that obviously and he said, it's easy. They're smarter than us. And he said, how can you, this came from the tour guide. He said, how can we disrespect and dishonor the very people that give us life? So he was like, we don't disrespect our women. He was like, because every man comes from a woman. He was like, so we honor them, we protect them. What? So I feel like
I'm not laughing because it's gonna come off as me saying women are ultimates. It is very simple.
It's not that simple. If it was that simple,
men have been villainized in America. Men, and I'm saying black men especially, and men have been villainized since since the feminist movement happened. It was an attack on patriarchy up until that point, right? And here's the counter argument to that. I do believe women should be able to go out and get their bank account. They should have credit cards, buy a house. They should be able to do what they want. What that created was a system of women who felt like, although spiritually it deems different, they felt like they should have everything that a man has. So when you keep pushing that, and we say, here, you take it, now you have women who are operating in roles that they're not supposed to be operating in. That's the difference between their society and our society. The attack on patriarchy. An accountant over there can be respectful to a man who works as a construction worker, but it's not, the roles aren't reversed. A woman, and I've seen this is not me, but I seen this in a reel for a talk show. One of the psychiatrists said, a man will marry a woman who works at McDonald's, but a woman won't marry a man who works at McDonald's. And here, I'm gonna put context to it. A well-earning woman will not go into McDonald's and see a man hustling at the fry machine and instantly be like, I want to marry him. But a man who has who has a great wealth can walk into that same McDonald's and see a woman and want to go out and date with her. But it don't work the same. That's the real. That's what I'm saying. That's some food for thought. And I thought that was a very interesting observation. In America.
Would you agree?
I don't even know if I would agree, but I think there's some semblance of there's some validity to that argument. I ain't always, you know what I'm saying?
He been around.
Struggling. No, it ain't not been around.
Sorry.
What do you mean? I wasn't even going there. I was saying about my income. I was talking about me not having a lot of money and trying to date a woman who's had way more than I have. And I was treated, and I'm still me, and I was treated not the same as a dude who I knew she dated that made like $200,000 to $300,000 a year. I've been in that situation. I've seen it.
So wait, so you're saying you dated a woman?
She looked at me my job.
Dated somebody
She
else.
looked at me with my $12 an hour job. She looked at me differently than the dude that I knew who was my guy that she dated and made a lot more money than me. She looked at him and treated him a lot more differently than when she was trying to talk to me. It was different.
How was it different? Like, what was her?
She was condescending, and she was talking to me like I didn't and I'm still the same James who has what I got now. Choices, I had all that stuff. And I just wasn't at the level at the time as of working towards where I was getting. I wasn't head coach James. I was still assistant coach, volunteering my time or making, the stipend payments. But my guy who had went to college and did all that stuff, I still hadn't even graduated college yet at that time. It was like night and day. So when you ask me, do I see the validity in that statement? I've seen it happen. Now, I've seen a guy go in McDonald's and she was mad fine and he pulled her from McDonald's.
So I don't.
And McDonald's is an archetype, not.
I don't disagree. I do not disagree. I think there are women who they fit that bill where they prioritize more of the
status,
financial status,
and achievement,
rather than the character.
It's the perceived
of
finance.
The person.
It's the perceived
right?
Status, the potential.
Because I always say money comes and goes. Money comes and goes.
Ultimately,
if a woman makes a decision based off of that, I promise you, the way life works, y'all will get married, and 3 months later, that man lose all he had.
Time.
Yes, it does.
Act like that don't happen.
I'm not saying it doesn't.
You making it seem like what I said was far-fetched. That happens way
I was agreeing
over here in this country. That happens. You think that's happening over there?
I was agreeing with you.
You think that's happening over there?
I don't think it. I don't.
Why?
I don't think it's happening over there because.
Tune in next week. Show's over.
Okay. Okay.
Why? So this lends to the question that you asked.
I don't think it happens over there. But I also know.
What's the difference? Why is it different? Why are your observations?
I don't think it happens over there because I think that, for one, in terms of that fight for their voice, it looks different.
So why you don't
have that?
Why didn't you have that same observation over here in America? Why did it take you to go to Dubai to have the observation?
I had that observation before Dubai.
Well, in Senegal, I'm talking about why you got to leave the country to have that type of observation.
Because I think that when you are exposed to different cultures and you are exposed to different things, it opens your lens up to different things. Stay in America, you assume that everything operates this way, and that's not true.
But you don't. You can learn about. That's what I just told you. I don't have to go to Dubai or Africa to know how cultures exist.
You can learn about it. You can read about it. You can do the documentaries and all of that. For me personally, just for me personally, going and experiencing it for myself creates a different level of revelation.
What if you don't have what? Okay, so speak to that little girl who don't have the opportunity to go to Dubai, Ultimates. Where is she supposed to get that type of behavior?
From her mom.
But what if her mom's never been married to know?
From her, like how in terms of
I'm directing the show again. I done set you up for some real conversations. These are fake questions for me.
From my group of friends, right? And I can speak for my friends. From my group of friends, we became that for each other. So when it comes to all kinds of things, when it comes to womanhood, being a wife, being a mom, all of it, we have created a community and a space for one another to where we can confide in one another about things. And it's not an amen choir.
Why'd you go to Africa? Where's Dubai?
It's the Middle East.
Why'd you go to the Middle East and have this revelation when you got that right there in your friend group on your phone is what I'm saying.
So the revelation that I had
again,
it was not that the revelation that I had was around the ease of the order. And identifying that it's not here.
It's not here because it's not ease of the order. I'm arguing with you now. It's not over here because y'all don't make the order easy. It's a fight that a good man has to fight. I'm speaking only for the top peer. I'm speaking for the top peer men. We have to fight with our sisters to be able to get that type of order. It don't come easy. What?
I think that the moment it becomes easy,
I'm gonna change.
I think the moment it becomes easy is when we both stop fighting. I think that the moment it becomes easy is when we realize that we're on the same team. So if you're if it constantly feel like it's an act, then we're already off base. We already off base.
No,
because
I don't think it's an
I
act.
think so. If
You
it's
said
an act,
team. You know, on every team there's an alpha, there's a big dog. You know, like on the Lakers, Kobe was the dog that everybody respected.
No, because that's not what we're.
You said
that's
team.
Not, yes, you going toward the position. The women.
No, I'm going towards the natural order
of the position.
When Michael Jordan walked into the room, everybody assumed respect for MJ.
We understand that.
I don't think women understand that.
We understand that.
I don't think so.
I think we understand that, and I think the issue there often resides in the space of feeling safe enough to. But
go ahead. I'm sorry, baby. Those are buzzwords. Those are therapy. What's safe? What does safe mean? You're in a relationship with somebody that you say you love. How? I'm not saying that because now you twisting my words and make the people hate me. All the women gonna hate me because I said that. Just saying. What I'm saying is y'all use words like safe and you don't define that to put a clear, definitive thing so you can lay it out. So if you saying you're not safe, how can I make you safe? And if it doesn't,
safety begins in all the illies.
What's that?
Like emotionally, spiritually, all the illies.
That's overview, baby.
Safety. That's
still macro. What's the micro in that?
Safety means that if there is a problem, I'm safe to you to come to it and not feel like it becomes weaponized. Safety.
Give an example. You gotta give an example.
Okay, so let's say a woman needs to talk to her spouse about how, because this is a reality. Women work all day. They work all day. They come home. They still, there are certain things that the kids will lean toward them for, and she just needs help around the house, right? So a woman that feels safe will be able to come to her husband and be like,
who calling you this time of night?
Swan,
we need to end this video. Part 2 next week.
Will be able to come to her spouse and be like, baby, I need help with X, Y, and Z. And her husband would be like, I hear you. What else do you need? Like, what else? What? And not even that. I'm paraphrasing.
No, I think that's a good example.
But that would be an example of her feelings.
So you not being. So how is it not being safe if you never tell your husband that and you? This is what I'm saying. This is what happens. That needs to happen, but the communication never comes. You sit there and say, oh, you don't help me because you expect us to read your mind that you've been working all day. Hey, guess what? I've been working too. I have a job. I have accomplishment too. If it's not communicated, how do you create safety if it's not? Okay, I don't want to poke holes in all your illies. Spiritually, emotionally, financially. So Swan gonna think that we don't think her call is important.
Girl, I'm gonna call you right back. And I know it's not that important because if she would have called back twice.
But you said it.
We know our code. Anytime somebody call after a certain time.
There you go again. She know code.
Anyway.
To me, it's important means we need to stop this video and get out. But to her, they got a code. How we supposed to know the code? I didn't know there was a code. To me,
it's just like if you call past a certain time and the person doesn't answer and it's important, you call.
It's 10:47 at night. They know it's recording Sunday because everybody gets this video.
But they don't know when we record, baby.
That means you haven't communicated to the people.
No. We don't have a consistent time frame of when we post.
We record on Sunday.
Yeah, we record on Sunday. There are 24 hours in Sunday. There is not a specific time frame of people expecting at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. We don't have that.
I'm about to be head of the household and say we got no track. Let's get back on track. Okay. The illies. You said the illies. Yes. Being safe in the illies.
Yes, being safe.
Move on from that. Yes. Because this video can get long if we go through each example.
But I'm not going through every example, but I'm just saying that if a woman feels safe, it's so and understanding that she can trust that her heart, it's not even, it has none, it really has to do with her heart. Understanding her heart will be cared for.
Yeah.
She'll easily follow the lead.
So I'm gonna ask you this question that got me in trouble the other night. Why would you marry somebody you don't feel safe with?
Because I don't think that it's not a place of physical safety.
We're not talking about that. We talking about the illies. If you haven't that person enough,
it's not a matter of, and it's not a matter of vetting someone enough.
It just said that.
I think you do have to know their habits.
Not habits, but you got to know how.
Different seasons bring out different things in people.
I can't disagree with you with that, but there's a general.
And I do have a thought. Like,
baby, it rains in all the seasons.
I do think that it's important to be with someone all 4 seasons. Meaning, James and I were together before we got married for 4 seasons. We were together for a whole year. We saw each other through grief. We saw it through health. We saw it in different seasons, right? Necessarily mean that you're going to experience your spouse before you say I do in all of their seasons. And they're going to grow. They're going to evolve. How they managed grief at 21, 25, 35 is going to look different when they are 45 and 55 and 65. So you need the space to be safe and evolving in that.
It's not safe if you don't allow the man to evolve because you come in with preconceived notions about what men do. And I'm going to go back to what I said. It rains in all 4 seasons. It don't snow in the summer. It rains in all 4 seasons. So if I rain in all 4 seasons, guess what I'm going to do in the season that you don't think is the season? I'm going to rain. I keep telling you, I'm consistent. How I am in grief is how I am in all the other things. I am consistent. Now, how I deal with those things is different because as you get older, you should mature. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely.
But if maturity level goes down as you get older, there should be
marriage is an as-is deal. You can't.
It's not as is. I think
if the person doesn't grow.
So y'all need training. We're not talking about growing involved. We're talking about how people respond to things. You can watch. And you can know there are telltale signs.
Absolutely. I'm agreeing to that.
So y'all need to sit down and say, how does Uncle Elroy respond to Aunt Ethel?
But sometimes, right? Let's make sure Uncle Elroy wasn't out here doing something he wasn't doing.
But hold on. But let me go back to
Ethel was not just being like, well, he providing for the household, so I know Pookie down the street.
That's a whole nother
so
different.
Let's not do
that's
that.
a whole nother different thing because there's also a thing of stability and keeping the peace. But that's another conversation that I have with my guys because grandpa taking care of the household. I'm not saying what my grandfather did or didn't do, but I know his house was taken care of and grandma didn't complain. Now, was it fair to grandma that he had?
Grandma didn't complain because where was she complaining to?
Grandma
what was she gonna do?
You don't know who my grandma was. Do you?
You're talking about your actual grandma. Okay.
I'm just saying about the women that
I didn't know.
No, I'm saying the women that I was around. No, it wasn't personal. I'm saying
no. If you're talking about your grandmother, that is personal. I wasn't talking about anybody's grandmother. I was just saying.
No, I'm speaking. You made a general assumption about grandmas back in that time. This is what I'm saying. This goes back to again, you're saying from your POV, your point of view, what you thought the movement was. What I'm saying is, even with the civil rights movement, there were a lot of people who did not want to segregate.
Yeah.
I mean, who didn't want integration. They wanted segregation.
Right.
What I'm telling you is, there were a lot of women who did not. I don't want to get a credit card. I don't want to go buy a house. They didn't want those things.
Right.
It was forced. It was forced upon them. So what I'm saying, I really think it was because it comes.
The only reason I say I did the is because when the law changed, they don't have to apply to the law, right? Meaning they don't have to go out and get a credit card.
That is not true. If you see Sister Johnson over there getting that stuff,
having the option is different from actually utilizing it and being restricted from it, right? So it's different. It's different from.
I see what you're saying. We just get into a whole other different thing.
Yeah, we did. That's
but
okay.
Here's what
it's different from you have a choice versus you don't have choice. This is what it is, and you have no say-so whatsoever in it. If a woman said, I choose to be a well-kept woman.
So let me ask you this question.
Then that's her choice.
So how do you explain Madam C.J. Walker, the young lady out in Oklahoma who had the oil reserve on her land. How do you explain? There were anomalies. This one, what I'm saying, you said there were Adam C.J. Walker was a millionaire. She didn't apparently she didn't struggle with the oppression that you saying women had. She didn't have that struggle from the standpoint of what you're saying. Because you said that, this is what I'm saying. I truly believe that you guys didn't need the fight that you had to get the things that you have, because what I'm saying is, to whom much is given, much is required. The responsibility and the spiritual weight in which you were going to go into, according to the Bible, now I'm bringing it back to the Bible, is that the role that God had designed for women to have?
So I don't think so. But I see it like this, right? If somebody has kept you restricted, let's say you got on a straitjacket, just
who's restricted?
No.
But who's restricted?
And you got on a straitjacket, and you're like, I would like to be out. Nope. And eventually you're like, I'm getting out. And you're free. Sometimes you go to that far end, which is another reason, like, I think in parenting, you want to have good balance, right? You don't want to be too strict on your kids, because then when they leave, they go crazy, right? I think here in these Americas, in this here America, I think that the women here, there was a unique experience that the women across the pond, they didn't have. There's a unique experience here for us, especially Black women, because white women, it's a different. Black women is a different ball game, because the Black women, they were also slaves and they were also objectified. And I think that in that process of saying, hey, we're more than property,
I agree.
I think you go to a far extreme, and I think I believe we're in an era where many women are realizing maybe we shouldn't be all the way over there.
You can't take the genie and put it back in the bottle. That's the whole point.
So
that's
now they're
point.
like, okay, how do we get back?
Only way
how do we get back
humility,
without losing?
You're not losing anything. That's what I'm trying to say. What are you losing? You're not I love this conversation because it could go in so many directions. That is the fundamental problem. It's the problem with why men cheat. It's the problem with, it's all that stuff. No, that's not. Listen to what I'm telling you. It's not true. Can you hear what I'm saying? Not just individualizing. I'm speaking on a broad level. I'm not saying individual. There's many different reasons why men cheat. We're talking about the overall. This is what psychologists say. The overall arching thing. Forget psychologists. From a spiritual standpoint, from a God, my son is Jesus, Holy Spirit standpoint, the reason why people get outside the bounds of things is because they fear the fear of what you may lose. That is the reason why people act out. It's fear. It's fear of what you may lose. Now, there are other sub reasons why people do what they do, and they could be affirmed or not. Mm-hmm. But the number one fear, especially from a spiritual standpoint, is for the fear of loss. So you just said it. You said, how do I not lose myself? Submitting in a godly Christian relationship, you don't lose anything. You actually gain. Honoring your husband in a way that may look like a simp to other women or to the culture, you're not losing anything. You're gaining something. If a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. Going outside of your marriage, you lose. That's when you lose. When you go outside the guardrails of how God designed this thing is when people lose. Eve thought she was gaining something and she lost so much. Adam thought he was gaining something and he lost so much. The perception of loss is what drives us to where we are right now. And you just said it. If a woman chooses to submit and honor her husband, she does not lose herself or a thing. Guess what? If she loses let me rephrase that statement. If she chooses to submit and honor a man who is not of godly standard, she will lose, but she'll gain because God will honor that submission, right? If she chooses to give that honor and glory and whatever you want to use to a godly man of God, she is even more blessed and more covered in that situation. Either way, she is still covered. The key feature in that is she chooses to remain submitted and to honor in her marriage. And of all people who knows that, I think that's you, for how you conducted yourself in a situation that wasn't very advantageous for you. And God honored that, right? I think you would agree to that. What happens when women get outside of biblical womanly character is when things start to go awry. And never, ever in the history of marriage should you marry anyone based off some of the things that women and men are choosing to marry each other off of, because they're not sustaining, right? They're not sustaining. Now, I understand safety and all those other things, but I tell people, man, safety is a word that we overuse way too much. The safest thing that we can say on this earth is your belief in Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior and who he is, what he was about, and what he did. That's really the safest thing. I had to learn that the hard way. For me, in my lax attitude, we're not safe by waking up in the morning. You can do everything right today. This is the craziest thing. We live in a world now where they're telling you to work hard and you can achieve all your dreams, and that's not true. That is not a true statement. We're being fed propaganda and lies in a lot of situations, and relationships is one of those. And the Bible is very direct. When most people say there's like a gray area in the Bible, I don't see it as that. We can go to Ephesians, you can go to Peter, you can go to all the verses that talk about husband and wives relations. And it's very clear to me. There is a standard. When you talk about how do I honor my husband, go to the fruits of the Spirit in Galatians 5. If you go to the fruits of the Spirit, you're already in line with honoring your husband. And you're already in line with honoring your wife. You're also in line with honoring other believers. You're also in line with honoring other people who aren't believers. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what I say about a fear of loss. The fear of loss gets you out of whack. Yeah. It gets you out of control. And you start to, because you do that, now you start to do things like try to control, manipulate, try to keep what you know what I'm saying? In some situations, God has already ordained you to lose everything. There's nothing you could do to keep it. Ain't nothing you could do to keep it, because God has already orchestrated whatever he's doing, whatever his mysterious, wonderful plan is. It is there for you. There's nothing you could do. When most people say stay back, I'm just going to stay black and die. No, the thing you could do is you honor what the word says for you to do. And I don't think a lot of people do that. Now I'm going to get off my soapbox, because this was about her. And then she brought me into it with her question.
No, this was good.
This is a long video. Really all right, what was your question to women that I hijacked this? Go ahead.
It was about being a crown to their husband, and what does that mean? What does that mean to be a crown to your husband?
This,
and I think, oh my gosh, I think that I think my love brought up business, but I wasn't even thinking about that.
I'm telling you, you said it.
No, I wasn't thinking about that.
We're going to go back and replay the tape.
I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about...
but that is what the verse talks about. It's her conducting in the marketplace.
This was not...
but that's the part not talking about that. I'm talking about... I said Proverbs. Sorry, if you didn't... But in Proverbs 31... Well, I'm saying in Proverbs 31, that woman is in the marketplace.
Yeah. But my question is not in Proverbs 31.
What is your question?
I'm sorry. Mine is in Proverbs 12. A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband. Proverbs 12:4.
What does it mean to be a crown to your husband?
What does that mean? That was my question.
Can your husband put on a crown? Now you got to go ask your husband that. What do we always do stuff for like single? What if you're trying to get married? You talk. Can somebody call you and be like, "Hey, I want to talk to you. How do you stay married to him?" What? Like, can somebody tell you? Somebody call and ask you that? Can they be like, "How do you do it? Like, what's the secret? Like, is there a secret? Like, is there drugs involved? Can you tell people how you end up like with me? Because people know me out there. They know the stuff.
Wait, like, is that a question?
I mean, they can ask you. I'm saying, you talk about being a mentor. Are you open to be able to talk? And we're not saying you some long, but you have. How long were you married the first time?
6 years.
You were married 6 years, together 12. So you have more than 5 years, the average marriage, they say like about 5 years, the wheels start to get a little shaky. You know what I'm saying? So you pass the 5 year mark. Somebody want to be like, how you do it? Now you're trying to go for another.
But I wouldn't. I would absolutely be a mentor to a woman, but I'm very clear I need one myself.
Nobody. Why the caveat?
And
Why that caveat?
I say that because
are you open?
I think it's very important. And it's not to say that a woman who is not married can't give sound advice. That's not it.
We talking about can people get advice, because we always speak to the married people, but I also do believe in being able to be a counselor to those who desire to be married. Not every single person should be married. Not every person desires to be married.
Everybody wants to be.
But this is what I'm saying. For those that do desire to be married, there should be an outlet and a place for them to be able to get tools, tips, and best practices that help them. Now, the thing I will say is every marriage is different. What works for us may not work for somebody else.
Right.
So the best goal is to establish a set of norms and understanding and alignment that potentially could change in another season. What me and Ultimates do right now may not work in year 2. It may not work in year 10. It may not work in year 20. All I'm saying is be open whenever you do have those changes and things like that, but make it your own. Establish your own. Because what I do not want to do or get in the habit of is watching other people and how they live their lives and say, hey, you know what I'm saying? Now, I will take advice. If something works, it works. But our life is so totally different. But all I'm saying is it rains in all seasons. Be rain. Be able to operate in all seasons. How about that?
And that's for everybody.
Fellas, put your crowns on. Peace. You gonna call someone? I'm gonna call Nova. Stop.